What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another installment of Avarice movie commentary. Tonight we'll be watching the original Halloween 2 from 1981. I know it sounds weird to say the original, but in Halloween 2, but we have had another Halloween 2 with the advent of Rob Zombie and Halloween mixing together. So even though we'd like that one stricken from the record, it does exist. So this is Halloween 2 Part 1, or the version 1, 1.0. If you're new to my channel, I do all sorts of stuff. I resell, I deliver newspapers, I make videos, starting to make podcasts. And basically, the channel at this point is just kind of an expression of me. It doesn't have a direction or any type of goal. Of course, if anything catches on and I start noticing that people are liking a certain area more than others, I might go that direction, but at this point it's pretty open. So, I'll give you a second to get yourself oriented, get your movie ready. I will do my best to time this out and sync it so that you guys can start playing it at the same time as me. But inevitably, there is a slight delay every time I push play, so trying to get it exact on is almost impossible. So I'll also have the volume up, hopefully loud enough for you to be able to slightly hear it, so that you can sync it up again later if you need to, or at least be able to hear what's going on if you decide to just listen to it in podcast form without the video. So I will go into my PS4 here. Check our volume. Pardon, I'm a little bit phlegmy. I've just had something I can't quite get over for the last week or two. But as part of my kind of testing the waters, seeing what's out there, seeing what I want to do in the realm of the internet and YouTube, I have committed to doing movie reviews and commentary for the Halloween series. So right now is the good times because we're in the good movies, but we do know it's going to get dark later on down the road, because there is some darkness if you hang around Haddonfield too long. So let's see here, got the movie set up. And I am clicking play in 3, 2, 1. But it is buffering or thinking about it, and now it is starting. I can see the stars, the globe just appeared, the planet Earth, Universal logo, and MCA company. Yes. So, tonight is either the perfect night or the worst night to do this. It is pouring rain and windy as hell outside. So, I'm constantly hearing noises, and the lights outside are flickering and shit as the trees blow through them. Yeah. It's interesting. So this is just footage from the end of the previous movie, obviously. So this is where she's sending the kids across the street to get the police called over, and for some reason she's going to stay in the house. I don't exactly understand that decision. Like, why not just everybody leave the house? Does she want to make sure she knows where Michael is? This sit-up move about to come, the best, can't fucking beat it. Oh my god. And the head, yeah, so robotic is the best way I can put it. Like, he sits up like he doesn't have a human back. He's like stiff as a board, and then his head tilts as if it's on some type of a pivoting mechanism and not a human head that has all this articulation. It's very interesting how that just kind of organically happened, but it's perfect. Now this, I think he's kind of penguin walking because they're actually so close together that he couldn't take that many steps before he got to her. So to make the scene play better, he's like penguin walking because he's got to step 6 inches. Now, another interesting thing is here, they cut out the portion where you see his face. She takes off his mask, and then it cuts to him putting it back on, but the actual portion where we see his face is really chopped. See, it's gone there. He pulls the mask back on, tucks it in, gets his pose right, and what bitch. Even the hair on this mask, like I know the shape of the face, the color, all that is a huge concern, but the hair on this mask is distinctive and beautiful. It's very hard to recreate for some reason. I know it's kind of sadistic, but Jamie Lee Curtis looks super cute in this scene. I don't know what it is. Something, she just reminds me of my youth, I guess. They did a pretty good job of making her hair look seamless too, because you can see her hair there, and then later on in the movie, all the new footage, she's wearing a wig because she had really short hair. And now that I know she's wearing a wig, I can tell, but before that, I never even questioned it. Now, of course, I was talking, we have Loomis coming down, looking startled that Michael's not there, which is interesting because at the end of the previous movie, he looked like he knew that was going to be the case. But now, he seems to be dumbfounded or befuddled. Michael does bleed. He is human, or at least partially. It's also kind of curious. Oh, wait, this is a great line. It's not going to happen for a couple minutes. What made this guy come outside? The screaming kids that happened, or the gunshots, probably. Of course.
Gentlemen, he's still on the loose. Is this some kind of joke? I've been trick-or-treated to death tonight. You don't know what death is.
You don't know what death is. Loomis is so great. He's the through line for the whole series, basically. I mean, the last one he's in is 6, but he's in every other one except for 3, which doesn't have Michael in it. Let's see, so he's in 1, 2, 4, 5, 6. They use the little voiceover part of him in H2O. I don't think they reference him at all in, it's not actually even him in H2O, but the character is there. In Resurrection, I don't think they reference him at all. I think that's the one movie where his name probably doesn't come up in the script or anything. And then, of course, Rob Zombie's Halloween's, he's in both of those. It's a different actor and such, but if the character's there. And then you have the new 2018 one. There's the scene where they have the voice recording that's also not Donald Pleasance, but pretty, sounds authentic enough. And so his character is painted as a through line through all of the Halloween movies except for 3 and 8, essentially, Resurrection, and 3, Season of the Witch. And the only other character that's the case for is Michael himself, because of course Jamie Lee Curtis, Laurie Strode, she goes in and out of the sequels. You have these weird appearances by Tommy, and then there's the offshoot where Jamie is actually supposed to be Laurie Strode's daughter, but then in H2O she doesn't have that daughter, and there's Josh Hartnett. So there's all this weird chopping up of the storyline, but Loomis and Michael are there the whole time. So I've heard it said that perhaps there should have been more focus on that relationship in at least one of the sequels, and I would agree with that, because that's really the kind of the story. And if you look at it, Michael kind of, I don't know if he's afraid of Dr. Loomis or what the situation is, but he doesn't really go straight after him. He doesn't try to take him out and remove him as a threat. It's almost like they're the equal and opposites. I'm speaking over this whole intro. This is the best intro, I think, in the whole franchise, where this skull comes apart, or this pumpkin comes apart and reveals the skull behind. Pretty long and drawn out. I've heard people complain that the opening to the new 2018 one was long and drawn out, but this one's every bit as much long and drawn out. This is actually, I don't remember how old I was, maybe 8. My dad's a big fan of these movies, and he always wanted to watch them, and I was terrified. And I agreed. I told him that I would watch this movie with him. And this scene came on. I might have been 10. I think 8's a little young, but by the time this scene was over with the pumpkin and the skull, I was crying my eyes out. I could, and they were like, "Okay, you can't watch the movie if this is getting you that worked up." It's just, I was fucking terrified of Michael when I was a kid. It's scenes like this because your parents tell you to take out the trash or something, and when you're a kid, you think this is way more plausible than it actually is. I like this too. The Michael's point of view, maneuvering throughout the neighborhood. More of this would have been good too. That Doberman doesn't want to fuck with the Doberman. German Shepherd's fine, but Doberman's nah. Michael's a fan of the Germans. Germans like Dobermans. I know there's German Rottweilers, and they're like Dobermans on steroids or something. Is there a relation there? The markings are the same, but they're so much different looking. I feel like Loomis is a little over the top in this scene here, where he's shouting about, "He's not human." It's a bit. I mean, of course, those are the lines that carried on though through time. Now, does Michael have a plan, or is he just wandering around here? He loves to hide in laundry. Nowadays, nobody does that. Hides in laundry, I mean. No, I mean, nobody hangs their clothes to dry. How about mustard? Are you asleep again? Jack-o'-lantern is on point. That lady knows how to use that knife. That's not even like lunch meat or deli. That's a hunk of ham and she's cutting pieces off of it. It's all marbled and fatty. I have something about fatty meat. I'd have to like cut that out of there, I think. Fry it up something. Now she freaks out here, or she's at least made aware of the situation. It appears Michael went in there to get the knife, but he also pauses because I think he hears the TV broadcast. And he's like, "They're talking about me. What? I better get out of here." There's your first glimpse of the quote-unquote new Michael, Dick Warlock. And so she just saw that, and now she goes over. Her knife is missing, and there's blood everywhere, and she knows that there's a killer on the loose. So it doesn't take a genius to draw those conclusions, and she lets out a nice scream. All this shit's so old school in this kitchen. Now this was actually shot in post. They went back and shot this because they thought that it needed to have a little more oomph added to it. So if it seems like this kill kind of doesn't make sense, it's because they added it after the fact and they were just trying to get a little more violence and a little higher body count in there. I don't mind the way Dick Warlock moves. I think he's good at the stealth and the hiding aspect. He's got the stiff movements. Of course, he's got a bigger head than Nick Castle. Nick Castle is kind of a skinny guy. So even though this is the same mask, it's stretched out on his face more. Plus, it's 3 years later and it wasn't taken care of properly. Deborah Hill had it under her bed in a shoebox. She was a heavy smoker, which I actually don't think it looks that discolored. I mean, it looks dirtier, but the main thing is that it's definitely deformed. It doesn't have the structure of the cheeks, etc. there as much, and it's stretched out over his face. I always thought the way he entered the room here was weird, and how like she supposedly doesn't see him, but he would be standing like right there, and then he Super Mario's up and just fucking. It's a bit of a weird kill. It's kind of out of place. She is a teenage girl though, so it fits there. And he just opens the door. "Honey, I'm home."
That's right down the street.
There's no dinner on the table. Oh, you're gonna fucking. Where is my big piece of chicken? Oh,
Do they know who it was?
the oven isn't even preheated? You haven't even turned it on? Oh my god, do I need to do the dishes too? That sound was Michael throwing pots and pans in the
Who
street.
is it? Who is it?
It's a little bit of tension building. I mean, learn how to cook. I mean, like again, when I was a kid, scary as hell for me. Typical cop parking in the middle of the street when he could park somewhere else. There's not a like, they're investigating, and they're getting Lori out of there. But this isn't an emergency. This isn't a standoff. They don't have their guns drawn. Why are you parked in the middle of the fucking street? These cops are a bit doofy, and they kind of resemble the ones from 5. Like, he's nodding his head, and he's like, yeah. And the partner was, yeah. There's even, did the one in 5 have a mustache? I can't remember. I don't think he did. Now we're introduced to beautiful Lance Guest. I'm not sure, but I think this was the highlight of his career. And then now, see, if you look, you can tell she's wearing a wig. It doesn't have the right texture, but it played right, especially back in the fucking VHS days. I never noticed it. I had to hear about it on a documentary I saw where they said she was wearing a wig because she had short hair. And good old Bud. Bud's a beautiful man.
Can you hear me? It's alright, take it easy. Don't go.
That's a very terrifying concept. I like that they worked that in there because you would be afraid of that. If you thought somebody was stalking you, out to get you, they can't find him. He's like this weird boogeyman character that just appears when you least expect. You wouldn't want to be unconscious and unable to defend yourself or assess the situation. It would be a very scary thing. I like that, how he finds out that her old man Strode realty. Okay, like he's filling out a questionnaire. I believe that this is a school or an unused building in a hospital that they turned into their set. A lot of people are totally wrong about what they think they see here. This kid has a razor blade in his mouth. He bit into an apple with a razor blade in it. When it shows the side profile, you can see the holes in the middle of the razor blade. He's got it long way. See, it's jammed into the roof of it. That's totally a razor blade. The kind you can snap in half. I've heard people say it's glass or all this shit. He has a full razor blade in his mouth. Which is the story we all heard as kids. That's why your parents always checked your candy. I've never heard of it actually happening, but this movie definitely reinforced that when I saw it. I was like, oh shit, that's why my parents need to check my stuff. Also, nobody was giving out apples. And if you slid a razor blade into an apple, it would break the skin and dent it in and bruise it, and very quickly make a mark that would make you know that there was a razor blade in there. I'd like to see somebody put a razor blade in an apple without me being able to tell that the apple has a razor blade in it. Indistinguishable from an untampered with apple. We're gonna see how this goes. My words aren't coming to me the best because it is like 11 o'clock at night. I've been up since 6 in the morning drinking some coffee. We'll see how it works.
Would you please wait in room A? Oh, come on, thank you.
The way she tells her with a grin on her face to please wait in room A. We never see them again. Oh, yeah, we do. He comes out with his mouth stitched up. They're going to go get some ice cream. And
Floor's closed.
Come on, right, you're right. Janet, get me some more coffee.
they have quite a few cute girls in this movie, I got to say. This is the emptiest hospital I've ever seen, though. As far as, like, other patients and shit.
Well, let's see what we have here.
There's only one doctor, and they had to call him from the country club. I mean, I guess I wasn't alive in the 70s. Or I guess this is early 80s. And I also, I grew up in a small town, but not this small. So I can't I don't have a frame of reference to know exactly how busy or slow a hospital would have been back then, but I gotta believe that there would be more than one doctor. Like that a hospital would be able to go any period of time without a doctor being there is unfathomable to me. That you would have to call one from the country club to come in and do an emergency room thing like this. But then again, if you don't know the history, well, I'll digress. Lori getting put to sleep now, which she was super afraid of, terrifying. Again, as an audience member, you're like, fuck, this is out of her control now. She's got to hope that he doesn't find her before she comes back too. Anyway, John Carpenter wrote this. He didn't direct it, but he wrote it. And basically, the studio, the Akkads, everybody was pushing for a sequel. He wasn't on board. He felt like it was over. He told the whole story, which is interesting because he left it so open-ended that it kind of just lent itself to a sequel. But that's also, he wanted it to be left with that unknown, scary feeling. If you tie it up real nice, then it's not as scary to the audience leaving the theater. So he kind of felt like he creatively had scratched that itch. But it became clear, in the words of the director, it became clear that the people who were in charge and had the power to push the sequel through were going to push the sequel through. So, and I believe that in order for Carpenter to get his royalties, he had to write the sequel. We'll pause that for a second because now they're going to see the fake Michael. This is Ben Tramer wearing a blonde Michael mask, and you'd think that Loomis would know that Michael wasn't wearing a blonde mask, but the costume is so on the nose for this this poor kid, just unlucky, I guess. So at the store where Michael stole his mask, apparently there was a blonde one. Oof. I always kind of hated that. I mean, I don't know if old cars were pieces of shit, but the way it just explodes on impact like that, like the kid was filled with dynamite. So maybe when Michael swiped that mask, he put one of the blonde ones in his back pocket and he wore it for that one scene in Halloween 4. So obviously this movie's old, spoilers. We know that that's not him. The audience, I'm pretty sure at the time, knew it wasn't him. They made it clear enough with, like, did he have a bag of candy? And then the blonde hair. And I think he was a little bit smaller than Michael actually is. So anyway, John Carpenter essentially wrote this script begrudgingly. And according to himself, he drank a 6-pack a night and just pushed through it. And I think he said it didn't turn out well because he didn't do a very good job or something to that effect. He didn't like it. And actually the first person who signed on to direct it declined after reading the script because he didn't like it. I actually wasn't aware that so many people hated this movie until the new sequel came out and I kind of started looking into it. Because again, I'm old or younger, so these two movies were intertwined and went hand in hand before I ever saw them. So I never really questioned the existence of this movie and where they went with the story, especially since John Carpenter wrote it. But John Carpenter, the creator of the original, introduces the idea of Laurie being his sister. That's where he went with it, which kind of identifies Michael for the rest of the series, which I guess is why people have a problem with it. But it does give you a reliable protagonist. The antagonist and the protagonist can remain basically the same, or offshoots of the same protagonist. Like one of the problems with Scream was the antagonist had to constantly be changing. So you kept Neve Campbell as the target all the time. And they had to constantly come up with a reason why a new person would want to come into her life and try to kill her. And that's how it gets far-fetched, because how much of this shit's going to happen to one person? How many unknown relatives and blah, blah, blah can they have? Anywho, So, according to the new, it's a sequel, but it's called Halloween. They didn't call it Halloween 2, the 2018 one. It's a little bit confusing with the names because there's now 3 movies called Halloween. John Carpenter's, Rob Zombie's, and the new one by Blumhouse and Universal. But according to that new one, this movie didn't happen.
Meanwhile, 3 bodies were discovered in the upstairs bedroom of the house, directly behind.
So we're now at the scene where the reporter is standing outside. Look, he's actually very seamless for a reporter at the time. Looks authentic. I don't really know why we needed to just have her say that to him. That didn't need to be in there. But this is where Brackett's going to discover that Annie is dead. So these guys just took Lori to the hospital from the house across the street. Literally across the street. Now they're back getting Annie. I guess there was no reason to go over there and check anything because Michael and Lori and everything had happened at the other house. They didn't even know to go, and I guess Lori was too out of it to tell them. You wonder why they went over there at all. The parents came home or something. Right after he slides his hand over her face, you can see her eyelid roll a little bit.
To go and tell my wife before somebody else does.
Going home, Lee. Going home. I'll take care of everything.
Damn you. So what have you done?
I feel like the sheriff's performance here is a little bit underacted. Like he seems a little bit too calm about the situation. He wasn't somber enough, and then he didn't go from a low enough somber to a high enough level of anger. It was too in the middle on both, in my opinion. This character is interesting. They could have done something with this character, this cop or deputy. I don't know what he is.
My patient for 15 years. It became an obsession with me until I realized that there was nothing within him, neither conscious
This is a
nor reason, that wasn't
great speech again by Loomis.
remotely human. Now
He believes what he's saying. Like he's delivering it as if he's explaining it to someone.
I am talking
The reporter's
about the
listening
real
in hardcore.
possibility that he is still out there. Where'd they take the body?
Coroner's office.
Get a death
Where would they take the body?
now.
What do you think where do you think they took him? A swimming pool to cool off? I believe that. Oh, this girl. This is one of those classic. Oh no, yeah, they added this scene in because they realized in post-production they couldn't. How did Michael know that Lori was at the hospital? So they add that kid in with the radio. Maybe I'm mistaken. That comes after this. This girl with the pink scarf. She's one of those girls that everything is always a problem. She's only happy if everything's going her way. She has to have everything perfect. She makes promises she can't keep. She's complaining about the party that she went to and that they were bobbing for apples like they were doing heroin. Then she promised this girl she would give her a ride, and she's trying to get out of it. She tries to get out of watching the kids so she can go fuck in the rehab center or whatever it is, the hot tub. She's squirrely. It's not gonna end well. So they had already shot that, and then they added this part where the kid comes back in with the radio and runs into Michael, and that's how they tied in that Michael knew where Lori was. We already saw him walk by with the radio, so it's a little bit odd. But now he's walking back by. When that score hits, some people bitch about the score being kind of synthed up and stuff. I love this score. It gets like, oh, I want to just go sprint on a fucking treadmill right now. It's so good. But so Michael runs into that kid, hears that she's at the hospital, conveniently is 50, 75 yards from a sign pointing to the hospital. I guess he lived in this town until he was 6, so he kind of knows his way around. But how much could you possibly absorb of that when you're 6 years old? I lived in the town I was born in until I was almost 14, and I barely know how to get around there. Barely. Granted, I wasn't in a prison cell since then, but and I learned how to drive here. But when I go back there, I have a rough idea where stuff is. I know landmarks, etc. But street names and how to specifically, especially on foot, fuck, I'd be in trouble. So his sense of direction, he's like a Doberman pinscher. I also love this shot. Oh, so good. The hair. Oh, man. In the future, they try to make the hair too perfect. That hair is all fucked up. It's supposed to be. I'm talking about Lance Guest. That poor TV report. It's like they gave him 2 lines to say, but told him to take up 15 seconds, so he had to say the exact same thing twice in a row. Now, is Bud smoking weed here, or is he just roll his own cigarette? Because, like, he's an ambulance driver, and he's in the hospital. He's at work. They're just kind of showing how empty the hospital is. This fucking guy. He's a typical character. Michael's creeping around the building. Like, I guess this, like, scenes kind of like this are throwaway. I really like this movie, but I'm trying to look at it from the perspective of the people who bitch at it and see if they have a point. So she went and dropped her friend off and then drove back and arrived there at the exact same time at Michael, or after him. He might have just been standing there and she didn't think it was weird at all. And, oh, we're buffering. Oh, no. Pause your thing. Pause your thing. Everybody pause. Okay, I'm going to push play and see what happens. We're at the part she just said that Julie saw him, you know, and Bud hasn't reacted yet. So let's see. I'm gonna click play. And fuck, come on. Oh my god. I'm sorry, you guys. I guess shit like this happens occasionally. Especially when you're doing a hour-and-a-half long movie. We're already 28 minutes in. I don't really want to start over. Okay, anybody who sticks with me through this, you're a saint. I'm going to back out of it, try to resume play, and see if that fixes the issue. This is unfucking believable. Okay. Okay, I think I have a solution to this, but I need to walk. Always when I'm eating. He's indisposed at the moment. His mama's sick. Again, you guys, anybody who's sticking with me through this, I really appreciate it, because we gotta roll with the punches. I did not expect my shit to just stop working like that. Okay. And we're commencing. What?
Julie saw him, you know.
Julie saw him, you know.
Michael Myers.
Come on.
I swear, yesterday when she was coming.
So, this girl later in the movie gets stabbed in the temple with the needle. when they shot that, she fell and hit her head on a table, and it's her right side, so she's all done up with makeup, and that's why she keeps her head tilted in this whole scene. This was shot later, and she's all bruised up.
You didn't escape until last night.
But it's so great. Julie's full of shit. He just tells it like he sees it. Calls it like he sees it.
Anyway.
He put that in his pocket. Is that a roach? Is he really smoking weed and he's the ambulance driver?
Sorry. I guess I just fuck up all the time.
Was he talking to her or me? This guy's great. He's just living his life. It's probably not going to work out well for him in the end, but right now he's awesome. See, she never looks that way because she's trying to keep her face hidden.
Hi.
You're late.
Yeah, I know. I've got to get on the ward. Hi, Jimmy.
You're like, yeah, I know, but I'm hot, so nobody's going to do anything about it. Except for the fucking, her boss, that's a woman. She's not putting up with that shit.
Right.
She's like, I see you mesmerize all the guys, but you were fucking late. One of these kids could die. You're a cunt.
Come sit on my face.
Don't make me cry. I need your pie.
But why don't you just shut up?
Again, when I was a kid, I thought he was a huge pervert because he said, I knew what the pie meant, but I was like, oh my god, he's singing about sex at work. He's disgusting. You know how kids are.
Nurses, that's another
Now I know that adults
But patients, it's no good. It never
talk
works
exactly
out.
like this when they're at work.
Where you going, college boy?
And then occasionally somebody says it's sexual harassment. Not to discredit legit sexual harassment. Floor needs something done. I don't even know. Looks like they pulled up the carpet and just left what was underneath there. It's, again, so empty. Who's in here? Are there other patients here and Michael just leaves them alone? Or is this hospital about to go out of business? There's babies, we know that. She arrived late and still had to change into her uniform. Man. Model employee. This shot was always creepy too. Michael just around all these babies. You're like, oh my god. But they couldn't really, you can't do that. That's gonna turn so many people off. Oop, almost got there. He does a lot of weird hiding in plain sight shit in this movie that's, like, they don't see him through there. You'd see it out of the corner of your eye and it would startle the shit out of you.
You're right. I'm sorry.
See, like, look at where her eye line is. She can't see him.
You've got to learn to be on time.
That's not even where she's actually Those two shots don't mesh. The wall looks like it's blocking her view from there.
They should have handled it more carefully.
Your dad.
Michael Myers.
And this is kind of creepy because
Yeah,
she goes to school with his little brother. So he's graduated. He's like 19. She's 17. He might be 20.
The Myers house?
She thinks he's cool because he's older but if he has to hit on a young girl like this that's just been attacked, that's 2-3 years younger than him, he's probably a loser for his age group. I'm just saying. Dudes who need to date down in age, especially when they go into the teenagers that are illegal status, it's because they're not socially equipped to be with people that are their own age,
Time's up, Jimmy. Let's go.
in my opinion.
Okay.
You can hate it or love it. Her name's Virginia.
The hours are definitely over.
Jimmy, you're really trying to get it in with this girl that's just been super traumatized. Imagine if there was a movie where they got like an offshoot movie, because the original ending of this, Jimmy was actually supposed to
I'm trying to get a hold of your
pop up
parents.
in the back of the ambulance with a blanket over his face. And for a one beat, everybody thinks it's Michael, and then the blanket slips off and it's just Lance Guest alive. They could have done a sequel where those two get together. That could have happened. I wonder if Lance Guest is Karen's mom in the new one, or Karen's dad rather in the new one. Might be her mom now. Maybe he is transgender.
Yes, Mrs. House? Don't tell Mr. Garrett we're having trouble with the phones.
She is cute. She's still cute to this day. She aged well. The girl in the blue, the nurse girl. I don't know. Janet. Michael is. He must have had a past life where he worked as an electrician and telephone repair, because he knows how to cut that shit out with the quickness. He disabled that whole building's telephones somehow. I wouldn't know how to do that. You could give me hours. Maybe he studied the layout of the building, the hospital he was at, and he kind of understood. He does a lot of generic stuff in this, I gotta be honest, when you really look at it.
I'm gonna go jump a pool.
But if you just want to smoke a blunt and watch a movie, it's great.
It'll take me 5 minutes.
But I don't even know how to use this thing.
Not saying that's what I did. Not saying that's not what I did. Not saying it's dissimilar or similar. You're going to have to draw your own conclusion on that one. Okay, yeah, this one kind of pisses me off with the cat and the jump scare bullshit is cheap. The kill is great, though. The hammer through the skull is awesome. But, like, Michael came down here and hid in the storeroom and waited for the fucking security guard to come down there so that he could kill him with a hammer that he suddenly has. It's just a little bit. And this plays so slow. Like when you're just chilling and you might pull out your phone and check your text messages or something, you don't realize sometimes how long these scenes are. But when you have to talk over them, you kind of realize how drawn out they are. There's was that paint or blood or why? Why was he even back? He was already in the hospital. He was already right by those nurses. That's another thing that kind of doesn't make it. He zigzags around and through and not real goal oriented. Leaves people alone, comes back for them later, sets bodies up in weird ways. I guess the setting the bodies up in weird ways is always a through line for him. Did Michael even know there was a security guard? And the phones and everything are done. What does he think this? Why did he have to lure this motherfucker out? What was this guy gonna do? You could just walk up to him and hand to hand it. You're gonna win. I'm talking to Michael now. Someone better drive down the station right away. And then she's so fucking dumb. How do you work this thing? What? You do important stuff related to people's health at a hospital, and you can't work a walkie-talkie? I'm pretty sure you're not going to have to change the station or anything. Just push the fucking button and talk. I know I'm getting ahead of myself. We're not there yet. But that part always bothers me. Are we supposed to see that the hammer is missing? Where would it be? Michael grabs the hammer and only uses it for this one kill, and then goes in and finds a scalpel somewhere.
I think somebody broke into the storeroom.
And I guess if this was the only sequel, and if I was watching it for the first time, maybe even if I wasn't watching it for the first time, but if it was the only sequel, I would be upset about the Michael's weapon choice in the movie being the scalpel. But because there's so many movies where he uses the knife, it kind of works in the long run. But if it was just Halloween 1, Halloween 2, I would definitely be disappointed that he uses the scalpel and hammer and stuff in this, and there's not as much kitchen knife. Especially since he stole the kitchen knife from the Elrod house. He goes over and kills the one girl and then never uses it. It just drops it. Doesn't take it with him to the hospital at all. Which is also interesting because they shot that murder of the girl later because they wanted to add in some more bodies and gore. So in the original cut, he would have stolen that knife and done nothing with it. I may be missing something, but I think I'm right. I know I'm talking over the super dramatic scene. I'm sorry, guys. He's still walking around in the fucking storage room. This is not great. If somebody were in there, how would they have closed that and put the lock back on it? You couldn't do that from the inside, jackass. He used the claw part too.
Mr. Garrett, I gotta get back on the floor.
If you're fat, do you have like fat on top of your head? Is it mushy or is it just skull like everybody else? I wonder if it like went into his head easier because he was a little bit chubby. There's Ben Tramer. Look at that sweater the dentist is wearing.
Even the guns are charged. Look here. See here? No fillings. He's young, maybe 17, maybe 18.
Michael Myers is 21.
I think I had fillings by the time I was...
Means we check X-rays
Or I had
every day.
fillings when I was a little kid, and then I think I lost them. I don't think at that age I had fillings either. I did have several chips in my front teeth fixed, and now at this point I have a lot of fillings. That's a story for another time.
Everybody goes back out.
We just close it up.
I want a sweep from Chestnut south to the bypass. I want every street, every house,
These cops,
every backyard.
I mean, not for nothing, they never find Michael anywhere. And nobody ever goes by the hospital to check. They're doing these sweeps and everything. Not a one cop goes to the hospital to check Lori. Kind of interesting. You can see the 709 painted on the front, or hanging on the front there above the doorway. And he says it's 45 Lampkin Lane.
This is Hunt. Send another vehicle. The old miner's out 45 Lincoln Lane.
Why couldn't you at least change the hang a sign over the numbers or something, or use the actual numbers but change the street name? Why would you I guess you couldn't see it back then, honestly, if you watch this on a VHS or something, but I'm watching a really high quality Blu-ray version on a nice TV, so I can see it. I can still see it. They painted them white, it looks like, but they're metal numbers. She was wearing a Fedor sweater of Ultimate Victory.
Empty. Plus, we covered the whole east end of Haddonfield. Check it out. Just as near.
Check it again, motherfucker.
You know,
You don't like overtime?
Haddonfield is pretty quiet.
You don't like money? You don't need to eat?
Gunshots you ever heard?
That's from The Sopranos, if you... Shout out to Sopranos. Junior.
1963, Michael Myers.
What the matter with you? You don't like money? You don't like to eat?
I remember.
So Loomis takes the cigarette from him, but doesn't light it or smoke it. I wonder if it was in the scene for him to share a cigarette with him, and Donald Pleasance just didn't want to do that, and so he handed it to him, and he just played the scene out. Nonetheless, I mean, you could play it out the same whether he's smoking or not, but that's also how he gets a hold of the lighter, I think. Or does he take it from the nurse?
He was the ideal patient. He didn't talk, he didn't...
Or does he just have a collection of lighters? He bicks people like a motherfucker. Dr. Loomis is the worst bicker because he doesn't even smoke. Somehow, you hand him your lighter and just never get it back.
Did you know?
Yeah, I mean,
He's planning on starting so many fires.
Yeah, what is it,
could. Yeah, I'm worried about Ben Tramer. He isn't home yet. Yeah, they left the party at 10.
It's only a little after 11, boys.
He was real drunk. How old is he?
17. He had that stupid mask on.
All right, boys.
17.
Yeah, the movie has to it explains itself a little bit too much and is a little bit too straightforward. I can see it. But as the sequels go, I still think this is one of the best ones. Might be the best one. Call it what you will. Hate it if you want. I don't give a fuck. It's my opinion. You can suck it. Degeneration. And then this is kind of a cheap jump scare, but it goes along with their characters, and I mean, Bud persuades her, but he doesn't have to work too hard. He's a pussy hound. Like, I mean, that's dude's thing. Dudes try and girls deny, and then eventually you get married. Like, they seem like they could have been a good couple if they didn't work together.
I wish I had.
All these empty beds in this fucking hospital.
Could have used these on you.
Happy Halloween.
But you are the biggest jerk I've ever met.
She is the type of girl that would be attracted to jerks, if I'm going to be honest. Just from like a psychological standpoint. He nailed that. And she does have some big old titties. Which is probably another reason she was cast. I'm not saying her acting ability isn't alright. But those chesticles.
Everybody's all weirded out. This Michael Myers.
Yeah, I said chesticles. Those balls on her chest. Which I believe are real. I hope. I pray. I'm not that much of a breast man, if I'm being honest, but I'll take what I can get any port in a storm. Yeah, baby. So then even this scene between them kind of plays out a little bit long.
I suppose if we left the door open, we could hear someone was coming, and the kids started to cry.
Yeah, if your baby was at the hospital, you would be comfortable with them just leaving the door open while they fuck and listen for one of the babies to cry.
Everything's okay.
That's what her job is.
You're wasting time.
I'm in my patio door smoking, so if you hear raindrops or wind, I apologize, but you'll deal with it.
Why won't you ever tell me anything?
I told you.
Now, Lori's all drugged up and woozy and shit, but she's somehow having these flashbacks of her mom telling her that she's adopted. And of going to visit Michael. It seems like some of that would have been in her memory previously. And she comes too, and I don't know if she just has this urge to get away or try to find safety, or if she's just fucked up on drugs or has a concussion, but she seems to be super disoriented and not really have a goal in mind the entire time she's in the hospital. Oh, she passes back out. I've seen this a lot of times, but it's so much that I can't really make order of the scenes, which I guess is a problem that a lot of people have with the movie. The story doesn't flow real smooth. It's just kind of a bunch of scenes chopped together. Like you almost could cut and paste and interchange them in different parts of the movie and it wouldn't make a difference for the story, which I don't think is great. Of course, you have to have certain things sequential, because once people start dying, they can't be in other scenes later. But, like, you could have had people die in a different order and it wouldn't really have played that much different. All those sorts of things. So, I mean, I like Bud. Bud's a likable character. The girl that tells Bud off but doesn't know how to work the fucking walkie-talkie, she's a likable character. The boss, the black girl, she's stern, but she's just doing her job and doing a good job. So there's a little bit there, but not enough development for you to really care that she died. The doctor was drunk and came in to work on Lori for a second, and then he gets killed, so bleh. Lance Guest is a creep, and we don't really get to see him die. The character he plays is a creep, and we don't get to see the character die. That made it sound like the real Lance Guest was a creep, and I hope he dies, and that's not what I meant. Apparently this water was actually very cold when they were shooting this scene, too. Bud said his dick was a raisin. I don't think the temperature would react that quickly, would it? There's probably some aficionados out there that know. Nowadays, maybe it might, but then... And the way he walks up and he's like hitting the dials and shit, like Mr. Magoo, like, what are you gonna figure out, you dumb fuck? The temperature setting's either too high or too low, and they aren't even foggy. What do you? And then she gets out. See, she's fucking leading him on. Oh, we'll just do this. We'll just do that. She gives in, but then she doesn't. She gives in, but feels bad about it. It's got to get her shit together. This girl's a mess. And of course, he gets strangled. So the way that they did this was pretty cool. Warlock just told him, I'm going to tug 3 times. Each time you bend your back a little bit farther. And on the third one, you bend back as far as you can and then just go limp and I'll nestle you down. And he did it really seamlessly and smooth. Then now he comes in. He puts his hand... I don't know why he does this. He's remembering his sister. His hand would feel totally different. He would stink. The taste of his hands, I don't even... Well, that was fake. The vomit sounds. And possibly the tits, I'm not sure. But she's... Ugh, ugh. Like if you stuffed your thumb up a chicken's ass and then let it die of starvation and rot away, your thumb would smell and taste better than Michael's. If it was your job to process shitty returns at Victoria's Secret, literally shitty returns, your hands would not smell and taste as bad as Michael's. Michael, impervious to the burning water, melts her face away, but he's fine. Again, I think his movements are pretty good. I don't know if you just had just the 2 movies and set them side by side, if it would compare as favorably. But when you have all the other sequels and all the other bullshit Michaels, this one holds up. I'm just telling you. Plus, when you talk about the mask, they literally got the best mask they could because it is the original mask. I don't think they realized how different it looked because it was 3 years later in time. The movie is supposed to be one continuous night, but they had the original mask and they used it. What more? I don't know what else you could ask for. I don't know exactly why Nick Castle didn't get cast to play him again, but that's neither here nor there. They moved on, which happens. My issues with the portrayal of Michael all come later. In 4, I thought he looked kind of bloated and dumpy. The mask was horrible. It was way too white. The hair was wrong. We'll get into that later when we're watching that and when I'm doing the review on that movie. But oh, that's the same lighter he already had.
Ordered back to Smith's Grove.
Ordered?
You can't order me.
No, but the governor can. He spoke to Dr. Rogers personally throughout.
There's just this guy polishing the floor in the back. Oh, they're at the school now. I wonder if this is part of the same building and they just shot it to look like it was a different part. Or a different building, rather. Dr. Loomis plays the part of the distraught seeker of justice so well. I gotta believe that in real life his character would be an alcoholic, though. He just seems like the burden would be so much that he would have to escape it.
Tell him you couldn't find me. Tell him anything. I can't leave Haddonfield now.
Especially when you add into the fact that these murders happen so sporadically, like the huge gaps. What's he doing in between there? Driving himself fucking crazy? He needs to, I guess he needs a little bit more move in his arms, but, hey, you passed out. Are you aware of what's going on? Are you gonna remember this? You mind if I take your pants off? Oh, you're wearing a hospital gown. You know it's split down the back. Like your butt. I was just thinking I could put my face in there and motorboat it around a little bit. I got curly hair. It's like a Brillo pad. Matches your vagina. We could get my head and your vagina tangled together. And we could just live in harmony that way. When are you gonna be legal so I can tell my parents? Oh no, she passed out. Time to pull your tongue out of her ass and leave. Oh, I just fucked that delivery up. See, I had never understood if she was faking here. Is she supposed to be in shock? Again, my original perception of this came from when I was a little kid, so I've kind of added on to that and molded it some, but you're always going to have that kind of original through line from the first few times you watched it, which I was very young. I was like 8, 10, like I said. This girl is so cute. Oh my god. I'm sure she has great other qualities too. I don't want a bunch of people bitching about that's all I care about. Her acting ability is outstanding. She's also fucking gorgeous. And like I said, held up well. She still looks pretty good. I saw her on a documentary from, I think, 2013.
Lori's throat. She's got a reaction to the medication. You better come quick.
And Michael doesn't seem to... They don't show him, like, stalking specific targets, per se. He's just kind of goes around, and then we see the aftermath of him killing this random person and him killing that random person. And the suspense doesn't play the same. Except for right here. This reveal is pretty good. It's a callback to the first one with the dimmer. And the mask looks like the original right there. The mask looks fucking great. I don't know how Michael knows that injecting air into her temple will kill her. I don't know how he knows that you're not supposed to get air into your bloodstream, but apparently he does. When he was dropping her there, the mask, you can tell it's the original. It looks just like it.
It's ridiculous.
And the head, that plays really well. I just don't like the style he killed her in because it's not a Michael style. He could have strangled her in some kind of really quasi-sexual way. Which is his MO. I'm not trying to project that upon him. There's a real kind of sexual release nature to when he gets a hold of these girls, like when he strangles Andy and he's you can almost hear the jizz hit the inside wall of his pants. Again with the jack-o'-lanterns. That might be an okay place for it. That might be legit. That fucking sound. Damn, super dark. This is Michael's perspective, eh? So there must be another patient in there because they rang the thing and she went down to check on him. None of these random rooms Michael ever goes in by chance have a patient in them. He's almost, it's like he's playing Pac-Man almost. He's it's like he's going around the hospital and then he's trying to avoid the ghosts, and then for just temporary moments he can turn into the Super Pac-Man or whatever and eat the ghosts. But then he goes back and he has to go back to running away from them. And Laurie's the fruit. See, that would have played better with a big-ass knife, butcher knife. I know he's in a hospital, but where did the knife go? Why did he grab it? So she's all fucked up. The turn was a bit slow there. That's one of my criticisms of the new one, though. I thought that Michael looked kind of stiff and slow in the newest one at times. Great performance, but at times a bit stiff and slow. That's what she said. Laurie!
Lori? You okay?
Could you imagine being stuck in the hospital before there were TVs in the room? Oh my god. No cell phones or internet or anything. I grew up at a great time because the very beginning of my life we didn't have internet. And then it came on around when I was in late elementary school, middle school. So I wish I was born maybe just 5 years earlier, so I could have got a little bit more experience of, you know, kids going outside to play, people leaving the house and you not being able to get a hold of them, you know, just kind of the weird old-timey things that people totally take for granted now. Anywho, I digress. Yeah, not enough upper body movement when he's walking, I suppose. Needs a little bit more fluidity. It just doesn't look like it's quite coming as natural to him as it does to Nick Castle. He's trying to emulate something instead of just being himself. Because according to the documentaries I've seen and interviews, etc., a lot of what Nick Castle did wasn't instructed or anything. John Carpenter just said, walk across the fucking street, man. I don't know what you're talking about. One thing they did really well with this is the lighting and the way it's shot fits with the previous one. It doesn't feel like it was made years later. It doesn't feel like it was made at a separate time in a different location with different cameras, with different directors. It flows well together. They got like that Vaseline rubbed on the lens when it's from her perspective, like she's foggy. You gotta wonder what's going through her mind. Like, what kind of a state is she in? Does she feel like she can't run and be safe and hide? Does she just feel ultimately vulnerable? Is she even comprehending that right now? Is she just in and out of consciousness? It's a hell of a position to go to sleep in.
We'll find you. Where you gonna be?
Ever since I can remember, I've been popping my collar, popping my collar. Marshal's a federal thing? Is there a state marshal? It's all federal. Another thing that's curious is Michael Loomis's only patient? Because once all this happens, this is the focus of his life seemingly from then on. He doesn't go check in with other people. He doesn't go to meetings. How is he getting paid? These are all questions I would like to have answered. But maybe that would be too much information and the story would suck. Once you try to explain those details, you start tripping over your own dick. See, I think Jamie Lee Curtis had her kind of hairstyle, and that's why the wig was necessary. I do like a little bit of how they use the camera work here of the screens and showing Michael in one place and then her in the same place, so you kind of get an idea of where they are in relationship to one another. Because a lot of the movie, you have no idea what the layout of this place is. So is he in one wing and they're in another? Is he right across the hall? Is he kitty corner? Like, it would add to the suspense if I knew how close he was. Like in the other one, it was confined to those two houses for the most part. So when it showed across the street, there was Michael. He's moving in. He's here. He's there. You have a general idea of how close these events are happening to one another. Here you have another one of those hiding in plain sight scenes that I don't really like. This shadow is obvious as fuck. Somebody would see that. And it's like, are you trying to get caught? In the other one, he would have been visible when they couldn't see him, and as soon as they could see him, he would disappear. And he looks really fucking short right there. He looks like a pedophile. He looks so short. And exit only, and he just came through it. He just entered through the exit. I don't know if Jamie's down for the anal, bro. Not a very good hero type character. Kind of dumb, like befuddled, and like it's kind of how you expect Dewey to act and Scream. Like, I don't know what's going on, I can't do anything. Major surgery's dark. Somebody's in minor surgery. Let's see what's up. I don't know how he didn't notice the puddle of blood, like, through the window. And then now, still, it takes, yeah. It is a great shot. And he fucks himself up, slipping and falling. But it's not really plausible that he didn't see that shit. Again, a fucked up way to kill somebody. I don't know. Did he kill her just by draining her blood? If so, why does it seem like she was just laying there peacefully instead of struggling? Oh! He said that he spent a long time getting that blood out of his hair, that fake blood. Look how much red is on the floor. He didn't see any of that when he... Give me a fucking break, man. Solid Haddonfield Memorial sign. And again, Michael is so skilled in these different areas of, I don't even know what to call it right now, these different career paths. We have the electrician, the telephone repairman. Now he's a mechanic. He knows exactly how to disable a vehicle. Or he just went at it like a Tasmanian devil and just destroyed everything he could find. But the time it would have taken to go around and do that to every car, and the vigilance around this building for nobody to have seen this happening. Was that a 289 Mustang? My first car was a 66 Mustang, but it had a 200 straight 6 in it. 4 on the floor. Holla at your boy. Black on black, American racing wheels. It wasn't as great as I'm making it sound, but it was, I mean, I wish I'd kept it. Jamie, is there a Bible in your room? You're supposed to carry around the Bible. Johnny Cash has already happened. I know you've listened to him. If you get the Bible, then the next thing you need, all you gotta find is a gun. My dog is freaking out at something at the door. I don't know if I should go check out what it is. Not a good time. Please go away. I love when they do that in movies like that would work. Please go away. If there's somebody out there, I'm going to tell them I've been trick-or-treated to death tonight. She would have seen Michael standing here. The way he pops out, he was just there visible to her. He's right here. And here comes a surprise finger in the butt. I think you have to have been in a relationship for a reasonable amount of time to get the surprise finger in the butt meme. But it's fucking spot on, because I think every guy walks up to his girl and does that goose move, that whoop, and that's their reaction. They act like you just dropped an ice cube down their back. They get that, oh, real surprised look. The suspense that the music builds is good. It does get a little frantic at times, but if you're all riled up and got your adrenaline pumping, it works. This hospital has multiple floors. I guess we did see that when Michael was walking up down the stairs previously, and we were looking from his point of view. So we're not acclimated enough to this environment to really understand the drama as it plays out. Once the chase scene happens, I guess we do. But she gets in an elevator in the front, and then the back opens up. So there's an elevator. How many floors does this fucking place have? Did he know she was gonna... He took the time to hang the security guard up down there, like he knew she would end up down there. If it seems like I'm doing a lot of bitching, that's just my nature. I point out flaws, inconsistencies, things that don't jive or gel, continuity issues, and camera work, story. It's just how my brain works. I do love this movie. Damn, with that shot. She's wearing a hospital gown during all this. That does not seem very friendly. Oh, I just saw her ass and underwear there. Yeah, keep in mind during this scene, she's wearing a hospital gown this whole time. So, like, I guess that's why she went with the sensible white cotton briefs, because she was probably hanging out a significant portion of the time, and cold. If my wife had to do that, she would be bitching about being cold the entire time. I wonder if they made her a custom gown. That's not split in the back. Like, it is up near her neck, but it doesn't. The split doesn't go all the way down to her, past her ass to the bottom. Okay, basement, ground, first, second. So there's 4 levels total. See, we weren't really keen to any of that. How much space she has to get away from him. I gotta say, that wig plays pretty well. Goes over like a lead turd in a punch bowl. Why wouldn't you just keep going? Just keep running. Go to an open field where there's no possible way he could sneak up on you. A confined space where you can't see. I guess like that's almost like a kid thing. You want to hide under the bed type situation, but that's not what I would be comfortable with. I would feel like a sitting duck. Yeah, she's got to sit up and look like you want. I'd either want to play like a cat and mouse thing where I knew where he was and tried to evade him with wit, or I would want to be in an area so wide open that it was impossible for him to sneak up on me. And then that would give me the opportunity to evade him, because he walks. He doesn't run. He doesn't jump. He doesn't seem to try all that hard. He's like an unstoppable motor on a slow speed.
You didn't believe me, no, did that?
But of course, they're trying to make a movie. They're not trying to make the most intelligent characters in the world.
Dr. Loomis, I think there's something.
It'd be nice if Loomis shed a tear right here.
You see the blackboard back there in the elementary school?
I love this mustachio fucking Marshall. It looks like he could almost pull off being Ron Jeremy's brother.
Burned alive.
Fuck you, Ron Jeremy.
By observing the way they died, the druids believed they could see omens of the future.
See, Loomis starts getting into druids and Sam Hain and shit. It gets a bit kooky.
Isn't goblins, ghosts, or witches? It's the unconscious mind.
See, that part's okay. But the druids and sacrifices and
Dr. Loomis, please listen to me. There's a file
you start mixing that in, and it's like, is Michael Irish?
No, it was hidden.
I guess he is Myers an Irish last name? I never really pay attention to that stuff for the most part.
He authorized Dr. Rogers to open it.
What file?
It isn't fair. They should have allowed you to examine
The idea that Loomis would be tasked with
that Strode girl.
trying to crack
Myers' sister.
the enigma that is Michael, and he wouldn't be armed with all the information possible.
Parents died and she was
Were they afraid that Loomis was going to throw that out at him in a therapy session? Michael, why the fuck are you know you have another sister, right? Say something to me, I'll tell you where she is. Come on.
Tonight after I shot him with
Quid pro quo.
the clinic.
Qui bono.
very well.
Sonny Bono skis horses and hitting some trees. Hey.
Governor.
Back around 17, about 3 months.
Turn this car around now.
I can't do that. I've got orders.
Those orders have changed.
Dr. Loomis.
Loomis doesn't go to jail for this because he's right, I guess. Oh, and the marshal doesn't live to tell about it. The sticker on the side of the car looks remarkably similar to the one on the side of the car that Michael steals from Loomis in the first one. And that car had a tail light out. See, now you've been sitting here so long that you don't have any concept of where Michael may be, which direction is safe to go. And this fuck, I never really understood that he was supposed to be concussed. I guess I'm an idiot. I thought he was in shock, I suppose. Like the situation was so overwhelming. But I suppose it makes more sense that he hit his head so fucking hard on the floor that he's concussed. And his brain is bruised. To have him pass out on the horn, though, that would be terrifying. And from her perspective, as an audience member, it's one of those shocking, like, God damn it. Because now she's got to go. And like I said before, she's been hiding in the car for so long. She has no idea what area of the perimeter Michael is in. He could be anywhere within a, whatever radius of that car. And the horn just was going off. So she's super vulnerable feeling now. And if you got out to run, you don't know which direction to run because you don't know where he is. At least when you knew where he was, you knew where to go. Pro tips. See, no slit down the back of that. They must have had to make adjustments or make her a custom one, because if she was doing this with a real hospital gown, she would essentially just be naked. She'd be crawling on a really shitty beach towel.
I ought to handcuff you to the wheel, but I have a feeling I'm going to need you in that.
What have I got to lose? Except my job.
That's a man of integrity. That's like one of those nightmares where you get in a fight and you go to punch and your arms don't move. You have to scream for help, but you can't.
Down there. Go on.
Dr. Loomis.
You stay with me and shut up.
If she'd still been in the car, she could have honked the horn. And I always thought it's interesting. So Michael went... He's going to come from outside around the building. And he's going to pop up off to just to the right of her head right now in that red light. I like that shot a lot. The red light on the mask. So he was outside looking for her, I suppose? Which I guess would make sense. How far away from the fucking door were they? And this Marshall's, I guess he's the one who's la-di-da. He's like, oh, I'm not really looking too hard. Run, Loomis, run. Okay, this part really bothers me. The way he walks through this door. The amount of force he puts into this, you would never be able to walk through anything like this. Like, he would just smash his face into it, and then he'd smash his face real good with a lot of force, but you wouldn't be able to generate the pressure and the leverage to break through that glass like that. I always thought, like, he should have brought his head back and headbutted it a little bit, smashed it with his hand. Something more plausible than just slowly walking through it. This Marshal is way too curious and not frightened enough, considering he's just there to pick up this doctor. Then this all just became really real really fast, and he's like, let me investigate the guy. Deadly do-right. Getting...
Get away from him! He stopped breathing! No!
Maybe it was a... Why are you concerned about if he stopped breathing? Do we care if this man lives? Why? He stopped breathing! We gotta call 911! We're at the hospital, you dumb motherfucker! Everybody's dead. What were you gonna do if you confirmed that he had stopped breathing? Call the newspaper reporter? Jamie Lee's hospital gown looks more like dirty gauze now. Bloody gauze. Far less better of a shot because of that scalpel. If he had the butcher knife, it'd be good. Again. But there's so many other movies later that have the butcher knife. Scalpel's okay, I suppose. And at the end of this, Deborah Hill told Dick Warlock that they were never going to do anything with Michael Myers again. She gave him the mask, the coveralls, the boots, the scalpel, and I think the hammer, and he took them all home. So presumably, Dick Warlock, I don't know if he's still alive, but Dick Warlock has the original Michael Myers mask, jumpsuit, boots, etc. Which I don't even want to pontificate how many thousands of dollars you could sell those for. I really want the NECA toy series, The Night He Came Home. It's a Michael statue, a Loomis statue, front stoop, porchway. Loomis has got the gun. I believe Michael's got the knife. But they go for like $400 unopened on eBay. Those are fucking sturdy doors. Like, you could tell by the way he's pounded on it there that it's a sturdy ass. It's not giving it an inch. And then all of a sudden it's a plywood shitty door. And now he looks drunk. He looks like he's drunk and he's just trying to get in his bedroom and go to bed and he can't figure out the doorknob, so he's just like, fuck it. He does go at Loomis there. He's like, okay, we're here. I gotta stab you. The confrontation has come to a culmination. One of us is gonna have to die. I'll give it my best effort. She's just frozen in fear. She now knows he's Michael, though. The head turn. I think my shit just skipped a little bit. The double eyeball shot and the blood dripping down. Except you can see his eyes behind the blood. his eyelids. You can see his eyes are closed. For some reason, Dick Warlock doesn't like this scene where he's swinging like this, but I don't know how you could have done it much better or different. It's a pretty straightforward thing. He looks like he's putting serious effort into those swipes. Does he not like the way he's covering his face? I don't know. Now, Loomis is the expert in flammable gases. I never considered the fact that the door was blown open before, or broken open before. So there was like a pressure release point. The explosion was going to go out that door, I guess regardless. But especially with that hole and stuff, there's actually even a way for the gas before the fire is lit to escape. Oxygen, ether. Oxygen I know is super flammable. Ether I think is an alcohol. I guess that could be either gas. Ethyl is an alcohol, my bad. No. It does. Maybe he hates the scene because the room seems so small and it seems like it takes him so many steps to get to them when he really would have been... Oh. Apparently when they did this, it was way too big of an explosion and much hotter than they expected. And I do really love this last scene when he's walking out. You can tell he's wearing the fire suit. He looks kind of like the Marshmallow Man, the Stay Puft guy from the Ghostbusters, but on fire. He's a burnt s'more at this point. But what are you gonna do? He's got to wear a fucking fire suit. It's he's walking zombie-like. He pulls it off. It works. I don't know why. It's never really bothered me that much that you can tell he's wearing a fire suit. Because I guess there's just nothing else you could do. And I want to see him walk through the fire, so yeah, do it. The scene of the mask melting. So glad they didn't use the original mask. Not that it benefited me any that they didn't, but... Somehow now the cops have known to show up. Such a kind of cliche end of horror movie scene here where it's like the sun just came up, it's a foggy morning, all the dust is settling, smoke's clearing, everything's gonna be okay. Feels super generic 80s horror movie right here in this scene. Almost like a Friday the 13th ending, actually. The amount of work required to do a television news report then. There's somebody just carrying around his sound, another guy with the microphone, and the dude reporting. And then how were they broadcasting? Do they have to take that film back to the studio, edit it, and then... Oh my god. Nothing digital. Analog editing? I'm losing my nerve. Boom, 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 boom. So I don't... this song isn't in the first one at all, right? This is just added in the second one. I think so. I don't think that this song's in the first one. So that is the end. I hope some of that was coherent. I hope you enjoyed it a little bit. I hope maybe you got your dick hard. I'm not going to touch it, but if you want to send me a pic, just send it to my Google Voice text. Anywho, I'll be doing a review of this. I still have to do my review of the original as well soon, and I'll be releasing those on the channel. I hope you enjoyed listening to this. Find me on Instagram at Avarice Trading. Subscribe to the channel, like the video, comment and tell me what you think of it. Let's just go ahead. One thing I want to point out here, it says Michael Myers, age 23. He was 6 when he committed the first murder. That was supposed to be in 1963. 15 years later, in 1978, he escapes. 15 plus 6 is 21. Yet in the original credits and the credits for this movie, it references Michael as being 23 when his mask is removed. That scene where his mask is removed, Tony Moran says Michael Myers, age 23. How did that get missed by so many people? Who did the bad math originally? Am I doing the bad math? Am I the fucking idiot? Tell me if I am, but anyway. Yeah, it's past midnight now here. I actually have to bounce. I gotta get ready to go to deliver newspapers and go to work. So again, like, subscribe, all that good shit. I appreciate every single one of the people that watches my videos, which is like 4 of you. We'll keep it moving. Tell me what you think. Peace. Actually, until the next time, be easy.